Spider-Man has been one of the biggest superhero franchises to hit the big screen in the past 2 decades, and between all 3 iterations, its history is a web of casting could-have-beens.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Although directors from Roger Corman to James Cameron tried to get a Spider-Man movie off the ground over the years, with Sony and Cameron interested in Leonardo DiCaprio or Edward Furlong starring, it was Sam Raimi who got the green light in the early 2000s. Raimi considered Freddie Prinze Jr., Wes Bentley, Chris Klein, and Jude Law for his Peter Parker, but eventually offered the part to Heath Ledger. The eventual Joker turned down the role, as did Josh Hartnett, so Raimi auditioned other actors like Scott Speedman and James Franco, who was instead cast as villain Harry Osborn, before being won over by Tobey Maguire after seeing The Cider House Rules.
Fly! Up, up, and away, Webb!
For Mary Jane, Eliza Dushku, Alicia Cuthbert, Alicia Vitt, Mina Suvari, and Tara Reid were considered before the role was offered to Kate Hudson, who turned it down to do The Four Feathers instead. Elizabeth Banks auditioned, but was told she was too old and instead cast as Betsy Brandt. Kirsten Dunst only read for Raimi after learning Tobey Maguire was on board, and then landed the job.
Wow, great reflexes.
Several of Hollywood's elite actors were considered for Green Goblin, including Nicolas Cage, John Malkovich, Bill Paxton, John Travolta, Robert De Niro, and Mel Gibson, who actually declined the role. Billy Crudup dropped out of other projects to play Green Goblin, but producers ultimately felt he was too young and brought in Willem Dafoe.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Spider-Man was a huge hit and a sequel was fast-tracked, but there was concern Maguire would not be able to return after hurting his back making Seabiscuit. Jake Gyllenhaal was brought in as a potential replacement, but Maguire ended up filming after all. For Spider-Man 2's villain, Dr. Octopus, De Niro was again considered, along with David Duchovny, Liev Schreiber, Sam Neill, Ed Harris, and Chris Cooper. But it was Alfred Molina who earned the role based on his performance in Frida.
Butterfingers.
For 2007 Spider-Man 3, producers considered Ben Kingsley playing Vulture, but instead went with Topher Grace playing Venom. For Gwen Stacy, Alicia Cuthbert was again considered, along with Scarlett Johansson, before it went to Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, this is so cool.
Director Mark Webb came on to reboot the franchise with 2012's The Amazing Spider-Man and met with several actors for the new Peter Parker, including Jamie Bell, Alden Ehrenreich, Anton Yelchin, Frank Delaney, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Josh Hutcherson. In the end, it was Dylan O'Brien, Logan Lerman, and Andrew Garfield who emerged as the frontrunners, with the latter earning the role.
You seriously think I'm a cop? Cop in a skin-tight red and blue suit. You know, you've got a mind of the true scholar, sir.
Lily Collins, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Emma Roberts, Mia Wasikowska, Imogen Poots, Teresa Palmer, and Diana Egren were all considered for Gwen Stacy, which went to Emma Stone, while Christoph Waltz and Michael Fassbender were eyed for the Lizard before Rhys Ifans landed the part. The Harry Osborn character returned for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Michael B. Jordan, Eddie Redmayne, Alden Ehrenreich, Boyd Holbrook, Sam Claflin, Douglas Booth, and Dane DeHaan all screen tested, with the latter earning the role.
At least I'm not completely helpless.
Shailene Woodley beat out Kristen Stewart and Jane Levy to play Mary Jane, but was ultimately cut to streamline the story. Damian Lewis, Mads Mikkelsen, and Jean Dujardin were contenders for Electro, which ended up going to Jamie Foxx.
But it's my birthday, everybody else is leaving, why do I have to stay?
Finally, the latest Spider-Man, who would star in the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies as well as Spider-Man Homecoming, producers looked at more than 1,500 actors in a search that was narrowed down to Asa Butterfield, Judah Lewis, Matthew Lintz, Charlie Plummer, Charlie Rowe, and Tom Holland. Thanks to his acclaimed performance in The Impossible and the fact that he was a gymnast and dancer, it was Holland who eventually won the part.
You're Spider-Boy?
Spider-Man.
Holland next returns to theaters in Spider-Man Far From Home and will likely stick around for more.
Are you an Avenger?
Yeah, basically.